sesión de nuestras charlas magistrales. ¿Qué gesto es ese? No, si lo que a mí no se me tiene por qué ir. O sea, a mí se tiene que ir de viva voz. Hola, hola. Vale. Otra sesión de... Ya empiezan jodiendo. Otra sesión de charlas magistrales. En este caso, bueno, hasta ahora siempre hemos traído gente de muchísima categoría, y en esta ocasión doblemente orgullo porque esta persona de excelente categoría es uno de nosotros. Es Rafa Anglés, que trabaja en el área de transformación digital de BBVA, está en el Agile Team, tienes ahí una tarea realmente clave porque da soporte metodológico a más de 600 personas en 40 proyectos. Es uno de nuestros referentes en el mundo del Agile y ha venido a compartir una horita con nosotros, que es una charla en inglés, a Talk in English, hablando sobre qué es el Agile, los fundamentos del Agile, cómo Agile ayuda a mejorar los negocios. Así que, bueno, oye, Rafa, muchísimas gracias por venirte a compartir tu conocimiento con nosotros y bienvenido aquí a casa.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Okay, hi. As I said, I has been working Agile from I don't know 5 years, 6 years. Right now I'm working in BBVA on digital transformation team. So let's start. I like to call this presentation of this masterclass Agile Foundations. Why? Because I think we can talk about a lot of things about Agile, but the first is understanding the basics, and then we can construct over that a lot of other, hopefully a lot of other masterclass like this, talking about Agile metrics, different frameworks like SAFe, that is the one we are using in BBVA, and so on, maybe how to work with Agile teams that are not co-located. So let's start with the foundations. This is a big picture of what I'm going to talk about today. What is Agile, the history. I want to talk about the Chaos report. Also talking, of course, about the Agile Manifest. Agile principles, Agile values. Also talking about a little about the change of the paradigm that we have to make from using and living Agile. Then a little about the mindset, that's the change we have to make. We have to have an Agile mindset, and so on. Okay, so let's start with what is Agile. I would like all of you, or some of you, to tell me what do you think is Agile? Go ahead, don't be shy. What is Agile for you? Anyone? Celia?
Methodology to work in the right way, which is divided into different streams and clarify the work.
Okay, I understand that you're saying that it's a methodology. Correct. That you're saying that it works in sprints, that's iteration. Also okay. And to do the right work. That's the phrase for me. Okay, so Agile, of course, we can talk that Agile are methods or methodologies that help teams to work together and help teams to work efficiently, to work effectively, and also to make better decisions. It's easy to make better decisions if a team is taking a decision or is making a decision instead of one person making a decision. But what if I tell you that Agile is not only a methodology, one method of work? What if I tell you that Agile is a mindset? Agile needs to be the mindset because you don't do Agile. You have to live Agile. You have to be Agile, and that's what we need. We need to be Agile. Okay. We have to have an open mind. We have to open all the process of working in a project to everybody. We have to open the planning, allow everybody to participate in a planning of a project. We have to open the process of designing. We have to open the process of development. So everybody need to be and to have this Agile mindset. Let's talk about the history of Agile. For some of you, maybe Agile is something that started with Agile Manifest. And maybe why this when we start calling this Agile. But it has a long tail. Okay? For example, we can start talking about agility and the Agile mindset and the Agile process in 1948, after the World War II, when in Japan, Toyota put a new production system, Toyota production system. Talk about eliminating the waste, eliminate the overburden, and eliminate all the inefficiencies. That's Agile. Then you can talk that in 1970s, we have a first article written by Dr. Winston Royce talking about how managing, well, the title is Managing Development Large Scale. But why is this interesting? Because it's the first time recorded in the history somebody put the development process on question and say why we have to develop software as we are building a car, automobile. Why we have to work as we are in a line of production? Why we have to wait to finish one stage to start developing the other? And it's the first time that somebody says that that is a problem, because you have the expert in every stage and they don't talk with each other. And that's a big problem. Also, continuing in 1985, we have the EVO, the Evolutionary Project Management. This is created by Tom Gill. He's known as the father of Agile. Why? Because Tom started talking about things like we have to make small steps for delivery. He talks about taking every step, making like 2% of the project, and delivering that and testing it, showing it to the customer. And then, if the step is good, the step is already is going in the right direction, you plan and make another step. If the step is wrong, you have to figure out why, make a causal analysis of why is this step wrong, and then fix what made that step be wrong, and plan another step. Iterative, like Agile. And also, it's the first time that somebody talks about, sorry, I lost it completely. Well, sorry, if I remember, I will go back there. Then in 1986, we have the spiral model. For the first time, we have a model specifically constructed for risk-driven development. And so on. We have in 1990 the rapid application development that takes Tom's Guild idea and the spiral model and construct a new way to construct software. And so on. We have the Crystal methodologies in 1992. We have the dynamic system development in 1994. We have Scrum in 1995. That may surprise everybody, because Scrum is something that actually is the first time that they refer this as a Scrum. But even in the 80s, there were already some Scrum, or they were writing some Scrum information, Scrum white papers and documents. We have the rapid application unified process, the feature-driven, extreme programming in the 1999, and so on. So you see, in the 90s, we have a lot of new frameworks for methodologies for working Agile. And then we have the Agile Manifest in 2001. And you may ask, why? Why, if we have been working Agile all these years, why we need an Agile Manifesto? Why we have, or programmers have the necessity to get in a room, talk to each other, and create this Agile Manifesto? It's because everything else was failing. In the late 90s, or first 2000, year 2000, Agile was dying, was failing. All these methodologies were failing. We haven't been able to make this work because Agile or rapid application development or whatever methodology was failing, was not delivering software, was not delivering, not being better than the traditional model. You say, why? Because we didn't, or at that point, the companies, the enterprises, haven't changed their mindset. They were trying to do Agile because, or rapid application development or Scrum or whatever they did, thinking that the model of company they have still applies to that. That was why this was failing. So that's why we need the Agile Manifest of that. And of course, well, after that, all or most of these have evolved, adapting the Agile Manifesto or the ideas expressed in Agile Manifesto. Most of them, they're already working on that way, but some of them have to make some changes. And new frameworks start to grow on, like the Lean Startup or Lean Software. So, let's talk about the chaos report. This chaos report is something that is made by a standards group since 1994, sorry. And this is the result of the first chaos report. They analyzed that, or say that in US, they were spending like $250 billion each year on software development. Over 175,000 projects. That projects were costing at the end 189% more than was initially on the budget. And even though we have that result, 31% of the projects were failed, never implemented. Money right to the trash. We have 33% of the projects being challenges, being projects that have overtimes, over budget, and only 60% of the projects were declared successful. Pretty bad. This is only assuming the cost. For example, the opportunity cost was not included here. Opportunity cost was estimated at $1 trillion. That was missing because these projects are failing. A good example is they using that particular time. The city of Denver was developing a new luggage or baggage system for the airport. The system have a lot of failures. That costs $1 million a day for the city of Denver. That's the cost of what losses generate that failing system to the city of Denver. Well, I don't want to scare you. Actually, we have improved a little. This is the last information I have from the chaos report of the last year. Since I think it's 2011, the chaos report have been separating the Agile project from the traditional waterfall projects. If you see, the waterfall projects are even failing, still failing, or actually it's worse that we have, or they have 20 years before. But at least the Agile is saving the day. We have almost 40% of projects successful, and we reduce the failed project to less than 10%. Good numbers. Okay? So, well, actually it's not completed. Let's talk about the Agile Manifest. In February 2001, a lot of experts in development get together and start discussing why projects are failing, what they need to do to take this project out successfully, and get together and think about this. This is the Agile Manifesto. Say, basically, this is our intention as software developer and what we need to do to complete projects. As I say, We are uncovering better ways to developing software by doing and helping others to do it. To this world, we have come to value individual interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That's it. While there is a value in the items of the right, we value more the items of the right. Pretty lightweight, only 68 words, and redefine how we build software. Pretty great. So let's talk more about that for values that they put in the Agile Manifest. Individuals and interaction over processes and tools. What does this mean? It means that we value the people, we value the interaction between people, the communication between people, more than we value process and tool. People first, process and tool second. Working software over comprehensive documentation. First, here, what this means, that it's more important to have a working software and deliver a working software that have a document that say how that software will work or should work. Pretty intelligent. What this means, we are not going to document anything in Agile. No, there are documents, but we measure our progress and our success based on working software. And what is working software? Is software that provide a value to the customer or to the client. That's it, pretty simple. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. What does this mean? This means that we need to treat everybody as a member of the team. We don't have to interact with the customer as they are a customer, that they are, he commands and we obey. No, the customer has to be involved in the process, has to be involved in the team. It's important that the product owner have involved with the team at every moment. And responding to change over following the plan. I think this explains itself. Is we have a plan, as a Field Marshal of Chief Staff Russian Army, almost say, plans never survive contact with the enemy. So you have a plan, and when the plan faces the real life always wins. Okay? So far we have discussed the Agile values that were in the Agile Manifest, but of course, it's pretty lightweight, 68 words, as we say. So we need something else to actually help these values and these principles and all the people following Agile to be Agile and to actually get there. And we talk about the 12 principles of Agile that are complementary to the 4 values. For example, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery. Of course, if you have a customer and you give him working software every time, every few weeks, he is going to be satisfied because he can see the progress. He also will be willing to help you because he sees we are progressing. Welcome change requirements, even in late development. It's a Agile principle. If there is change, we have to embrace it, because this change may see give some competitive advantage to our customer. So yes, we have to accept that kind of changes. Delivering working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. Of course, as I told you, the customer is satisfied, he is in progress. But also, you have a better feedback if you provide working software every few weeks. Not only for your customer, but also for the customers of your customer that is using that. So it's important to get this done, delivering working software. Also, it allows you to change direction at any time. If you have something have changed in the environment, this is what helps you to adjust that changes. As I told before, business people and developers must work together daily. Okay, as I told you, we need product owners, business analysts, or whatever else, working with the team, because we need them to see the struggles of the team. We need the team to see the necessities from this product owner, and that communication, that relationship, is what going to make that the team works better, understand better the necessities from his customer, and develop a good product. Okay, build projects around motivated individuals. Everybody, if you have motivation, you are a better worker. That's simple. So you have to make this and give an environment to these teams to be motivated, and so that way they can be better. Most efficient and most effective method to convey information. This is about the face-to-face communication. Of course, we can have not co-located or distributed teams in Agile. But the face-to-face communication is important. Probably is the most important thing, because an email or a document have some interpretation, and it's great to make a distribution of the knowledge, but you can get a feedback from that. Also, a phone call, great. You are talking. You can make ask some questions and bi-directional interaction, but 80% of the communication is actually done through the body language. If I was here, out of this camera, anybody that is seeing this on the internet will know me. He can put me a face, or how I'm dressed, or even if I'm reading this. So all this communication is important. That's why you have distributed team. Well, we have things already for this kind of situations. Can be a video conference or whatever, but try to keep your face-to-face communication. Working software is the primary measure of progress. Of course, how other way would you know if we are making any progress? What other metric is better than I am delivering things, I am delivering working software, I am delivering value to the customer? That's the way to measure if we are making progress or not. Okay, Agile team processes promote sustainable development. This is another of these points that are pretty obvious. What will you have if you have a team that is making 20, 30 extra hours a week? A demotivated team, a team that is waiting a new opportunity, members of the team that is waiting opportunity to leave. That's not sustainable. All this Agile is based on that the team has to be stable. And if you have the team making hours overtime, they are not going to be, or it's pretty difficult to be motivated that way. Okay, continuous attention to technical excellence and good design. This is something actually 100% related to the development team, and it is difficult if you don't take the time when you are designing, when you are creating the core of the application. If you don't take this idea, trying to do a great code with testing, with everything, it's going to be helpful from that team, because it's going to be unsustainable. We have every change you need to make, or every new functionality you have to be redoing the core, and that's will make the software unmaintainable. So this is important. This is one of the important things of the team. They have to be motivated and they have to be ready to create software with quality and with a good design. Simplicity. This is the other way. The other thing that involves only or mostly the development team. You have to keep things simple. You have to develop software that actually meet the requirements. You don't have to think about what if in the future we have some new requirement related to this, because that requirement may not come, never come. So you are spending time, spending money, building some functionality that is not going to be used, and maybe it's going to give you some troubles in the future. So it's important to keep it simple, keep it to the actual requirement. Then best architecture requirements and designs emerge for a self-organizing team. It's better for the team, it's all the team participating in the designing, participating in defining the architecture. If not, what we are going to have? You are going to have a team that actually doesn't like or doesn't understand the architecture design by some other people. That's a problem. You have going to have teams that are not going to be committed to the project, because with that architecture or with that design, I don't think this is going to work. This is why it's important. The team has to be in all these kind of decisions. And final one. At regular intervals, the team reflects how to become more effective. So, maybe every 2 weeks, every month, team has to sit down and analyze how they are working, what the problems they are facing, and then make decisions, make some actions for solving this problem. Okay? So this is how the Agile principles. Almost, I think, every framework is based on this principle and these values. Okay? Then, let's talk about the paradigm shift. We are moving from plan-driven or from plan-driven project to agile or value-driven. It's important not following the plan. The important thing is to get things done and deliver value to the customer. We have a predictive planning. Everything was designed at the beginning, and we need to be adaptive planning. The planning is just a baseline, and it's going to suffer changes. As I said, no plan survive, facing the enemy. And then we have process first, and now we have people first. How it works before? Well, we have a comic here that say it represents pretty much what was working, how it was working before. That we are done for the next stage, jump to the next stage, and then when you face problems, there is no way back, or the cost of getting back is too high. Also, before you were cannon, you were shooting at something, but by the time you shoot and the target there, target maybe not. What you need to be? A laser missile. What happened to you? Okay? Target move, the laser move with it, and you get it. How was before? The requirement was fixed, and then you estimate how the resources and the time needed for actually getting those requirements. How is now? You got fixed the resources and the time, and the functionality is what is estimated. explaining where to use Agile. First, well, if you have all these space complexity model, not for everything you have. If you have uncertainty in the technology or uncertainty in the agreement, Agile doesn't work for you. Or sorry, waterfall or traditional doesn't work for you, because you have to learn. You have to. It's a lot of uncertainty. Agile doesn't have to work for everything. If you have something right here in the close agreement, close entity in the technology area, of course, use waterfall. It will work for you. But if you are in the complicated area, in the complex area where you have some uncertainties in if the technology is going to work, or you don't have a complete agreement of what the customer have, you need something that helps you to embrace and faces the changes, and that's Agile. Of course, if you are in an area where there is not agreement and it's absolutely uncertainty in the technology, it's no hope. You are doomed. And then, for finishing the partnership, the organizations have to change. The organizations can't still be the same as they were before. They have to actually embrace or move, accept to move, even if they don't know all the information. They have to trust and create a trusting culture on the people, because Agile in Agile you empower the team, you empower the people. You have to have a knowledge sharing culture also. You have to embrace and have a continuous improvement and be quick to respond to contingencies. These are the changes that an organization has to suffer to actually be Agile. If an organization is not going to accept or going to change their mindset for accepting this, that organization probably shouldn't be using Agile, or should not be using Agile. Okay? So, let's talk about the mindset. You have all the tools and processes, you have all the practices, you know, all the tools, maybe you have using boards, physical boards, or you are using Jira, Agile, or whatever other Scrum or tool you have for this. You have the practices, stand-up meetings, retrospective, demos. Great. You have the principles, you have the values that we have discussed earlier. But you need a mindset, as we say. You don't do Agile, you have to be Agile. You can have all those things and still fail doing Agile. You can understand the principles, the values, you can have all the tools you need, you can have all the practices. But this doesn't guarantee that you are going to be doing Agile on the right way. What is this mindset, for example? Related to these things, ability, Agile mindset say that the ability is like a muscle that can grow. About goals, so you learn about the goals. Changes, you have to embrace it, the changes. Failure is just another way to get information. It's not what defines this. Effort, you have to be in the path to mastery. Every person in a Agile team has to be making an effort, and it's what makes you a better worker, better person. And of course, a reaction to changes. You don't have to be helpless, feel helplessness there. You have to be resilient to this. You have to be accept these changes or this challenge because it's part of the work. Okay, as I was talking before, this is important of the Agile mindset. It's not only understanding everything you have to do, but actually understanding why you are doing this. I'm going to put this example that is from Richard Feynman, that in the Second World War, on the South Sea Islands, the US Army get there and construct airfield. Runway with a radar station, with a radio station. There, the natives of the island start looking at that and say, well, look at that. They construct a roadway. A plane came here and provide food and material. So this Islander do the same. Went to the village, construct a roadway, put fire on the roadway, even construct that tower as a radar tower, and wait for the airplanes to come here and gave them food. The observation was great. They say, well, they made this, an airplane came here and gave them food. If we do it, we should get the same. But as I told you, they understand everything about it, or for what they observed about it, but didn't understand why it was that happened. That's why we need to change our mindset about Agile. Because if not, we are going to end like this. Okay, let's talk about a little about the empirical process. What is empirical process? It's how each one of us learn. Is you try, fail, evaluate what you did, and learn. You put your hand in the fire, you get burned. You know you can't put your hand in the fire anymore. So we have a lot of this empirical process. Plan, do, check. We have something that from Six Sigma has his own, or Lean startup has the build, learn, measure and learn. At the end, what we are saying is you need to plan something, do something, check the result, and then add based on that check you did. It's like Agile. It's basic for Agile. This. Okay, let's talk about, well, I'm going to name actually a lot of frameworks that we are using in Agile. Of course, we have Scrum, Crystal, Kanban, that is, or Lean, simple, not the frameworks, but we have some other frameworks for big enterprise or escalated Agile. For example, that, Nexus, Safe. Safe actually, his name, it takes his name from escalated Agile framework. Okay, I would like, if you want it or you are interested, I would like to have another like this and talk about Safe. Well, there are a lot of frameworks out there. All these frameworks actually based on what we have been discussing here or talking here about. Okay. Okay, let's talk a minute about some myths about Agile. The first one, Agile is new. I showed you before in the timeline, it's not new. Agile have been there for at least 30 years. So it's a mature frameworks, mindset or ideas, okay? Implementing Agile is easy. Big mistake if you think this, because implementing Agile requires an organizational change, requires a mindset change, and cultural change. This is maybe the difficult thing to change in our organization. How the culture of the organization is probably the difficult thing to change. This is like that. Agile gives instant benefit. Also a mistake. Agile you have to change a lot of things. Implement new processes, new methods to work, and this requires a learning curve. So at the beginning, Agile doesn't offer any benefit. Probably it's going to be slower than before, but once you get on the high part of that curve, you are going to have better results than the traditional. Agile and traditional don't mix. Another mistake, another myth, you can work with Agile and traditional. Why not? It's, a lot of companies are doing this. For example, banking, you have the core banking that is moving in traditional ways, and then offering new service to the customer based on that core that are working in the Agile way. A lot of companies, consultant companies, have names for this. Bimodal architecture, Moose, or what was the other one? I really like the last time. Well, I don't remember. But a lot of these consultants have names for this, and it's logical. You don't have to change everything. Let's talk about Agile means we don't plan. Another myth, as we saw in the first cartoon I showed. Agile is correct that you have the biggest effort, not in the planning, but actually in delivering, developing and delivering software. But you need to plan. The plan is going to have changes. But you need that plan. You need that plan to figure out what are your goals? Where are you moving to? If you are for example, if you are planning a new stage, a new deliver a new release, also you need a plan. It's maybe a mid-level plan, but also a plan that you have to expect to change. In Agile, you have to plan the sprints, the iteration you are doing. We have a sprint planning in Scrum. So you are planning. And even the sprint planning, that is the lowest level of planning in Agile, you have to expect changes there. Something can change from the moment you start a sprint and the moment in the middle of that sprint. Something can change. And you have to expect changes in that plan also. Agile means no documentation. As I talked before, it's true that we put our effort in delivering software, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to document anything. Agile is pretty important to some documentation as for delivery plan or information about the architecture, but maybe it's more important this kind of technical documentation that actually writing a document that specifies how the system works. And also, as you don't have or you don't plan time for this documentation, but you do it into the sprint in every work. So the documentation seems a little more, not like a big bang at the end. You have to document all this, but the documentation is controlled in the sprints. In every iteration, you build a little more of the documentation. And of course, the last minute Agile is a silver bullet. Silver bullet means that works for everything. As I told you, maybe not. If an enterprise is not willing to change their portal, Agile is not for them. If a software development company is working in a project that has absolute certainty of the agreement of what they have to do, absolute certainty of the technology they are going to use is robust enough, they don't need Agile. Okay? Well, we're getting to almost the end. Let's talk about Agile and business. Introducing Agile has been a really huge jump for business. And as we can see in this diagram, the blue line is how high agility companies perform in these four metrics. That is, meeting the ROI, or exceeding return of investment. A high agility company exceeds over 70% of the ROI, or achieve 70% of the ROI. So it's huge compared with traditional companies. Meeting the goals, Agile companies meet almost 90% of their goals working Agile, high agility enterprises. On budget, they almost get 80% of the projects and developments in budget, and on time, a little more than 70%. So it's actually a huge quality step that when a company moves to Agile, they have a lot of benefit doing that transition. Another here, for example, how we benefit Agile benefit the organization. Well, you have a 70% faster response to any change in the market conditions. You have a cost saving of 25%. The improvement efficiency or your organization is almost 50% more. With customer satisfaction, 54%. So at the end, you get a lot of things that make you want to be Agile and move and make that Agile transformation. Also, have a 75% quicker response to strategic opportunities. You have reduced your decision making or your production or your review cycles in 74%. And this is the last one, is one of the most important for me. You eliminate the organizational silos. This is deadly for an enterprise. If you don't share the information, this is deadly for a company, because companies have a lot of knowledge, all the people, and we need to share it. Okay, let's talk about some mistakes that company made when trying to make an Agile transformation, digital transformation. Okay, so one of the big mistakes is they become an Agile zone. What I mean with this, they send a lot of people to a Scrum, Kanban, or whatever framework they decide to use, and that people came to the company and say, this is what we need to do, and apply the out-of-the-box response. And that's a problem, because every company have their own necessities, their own problems, and you need to use the right tools for those. So, at the end, Kanban, Scrum, or whatever, or whichever you want to use, is a framework. It's a set of tools that you need to decide which one to use. Another mistake is excluding the entire organization. It's pretty obvious. You need all the organization to be involved. You can't say, well, we are going to have an Agile team here developing for us and not involving all other areas in the company, because at the end, those areas have information, have knowledge that need to be put in that development. Lack of executive support. This is one big mistake. Most of the Agile transformations start or are supported by the IT department. If you can convince operations, the CEO of the company, that this is something that have value and is going to be a better way to develop a product, a better way to, and it's going to be better for the company, you have a problem. Because at the end, IT, for most of the companies, IT is a cost, not an investment. And this is another thing that has to change in Agile, that changing your company to Agile, you have to see that as an investment, because you are going to have better return on investment, you are going to have your projects in time, on budget, and better customer satisfaction, and all these things we see. Insufficient coaching. Agile is not something that you read a book or send someone to 2 days course and that's it. That's all you need. No, you have to be with people that know and work in this every day. This is something that is the most expensive and the hardest thing to convince a CEO about investing, about coaching, because say, well, but why am I going to have an expert from outside that doesn't know our business? Let's do it in home, and sometimes that's difficult. Another thing is retaining the traditional governance. If you make an agile transformation and now develop software on that way, but still want to measure improvement, you still want to test everything, you still want to calculate the investment in the same way you were doing before, this is going to fail. Because agile is not what you were doing, and you need to adapt every process in the company to be a measure of agile. Good example of this is, for example, I have one right now that we have 600 people making this development, and now the bank have to, or it's going to be audited. And before it was pretty easy. What are you doing? You get a document, and this is where we spend the money. In Agile, that's not possible. I can't say the auditor or this is where we spend the money because I don't have that document. I have a Jira with a lot of information in there. I can say a report. We spend our money in all this functionality, but that's the problem. So what we are working right now in changing that way to measure and making a change on how we are going to report for that for that out. Okay. Another two big mistake is skipping on training and skipping on tooling. Of course, this is expensive. Training for everybody is expensive. Tools, some of them are pretty expensive. So we have CEO or IT or whoever is going to say, no, this is too expensive, so let's save some money here. And this is a problem because if you have the right mindset, but you don't have the tools, that's a problem. Or if you are not properly trained, you are going to be doing whatever you understand you need to do. So that's it. That's all I came here to talk to you about. If you have any questions, I will be glad to.
I would like to know, how did you solve the problem about meeting with Jira?
Okay. Question is how we solve the problem with that update in Jira. Well, the first thing was going to talk to the internal audit at the end. An audit is somebody is going to came here, see what process you define from an audit and follow it. So there is no pre-established audit. So at the end, we went to the internal audit team. At the end, well, it was a pretty difficult conversation because they involve a lot of departments and talk about how we can present all the proof you need to understand that where and how we spend money. And we define a new process for this audit for the agile part of the organization for digital transformation. We define with them a new process, we define with them a new set of reports that will show the information they need of which features were constructed, which features were delivered, and everything else. Also, the important part of this audit is also that before they have this document that were approved by all the business part. Now we don't have that because the product owner is in the team. So we have to make some changes in Jira for this part of the audit because we need to change and introduce a new validation, a new group of people that was business people that only they can accept and say this is a functionality I request and it's okay and it's I accept this functionality. So at the end, you need to talk with that part of that department that take the audit and design a new way to audit this department or this product or this development. Any other question? Anyone? Don't be shy. If you want, you can ask in Spanish and I will translate it if you want to. No? Well, thank you very much for being here. I hope this little presentation make you think more about Agile. I would love to be here with another themes or areas you want to cover. For example, as I told you before, how to work Agile with teams, how to work in escalated Agile, for example, the SAFe framework, or any other thing you will like. You send me an email, and I will try to work a little bit over that. Thank you very much. Have a nice